let's go do the news. Scott, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Oh, hello there. I didn't see you come in.
I snuck right in, didn't I? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Clyde Plays News. You got me, you got Scott here in the studio today. We are going to read some of the internet to you. Our top story today is the balance changes. We call them the buffs and nerfs, which Wargaming has published just this morning to talk about a whole bunch of ships that are changing. Real quickly, first, I want to hit just a couple of highlights on the changes to aircraft carriers that are coming in relatively hot. The big takeaway here actually is that Wargaming is going to release a couple of the things. They've already posted that in another article. So secondary control, some changes to the fire duration, things of that nature for aircraft carriers are changing. And then the other thing that they're saying here is that where does it say it here? They're going to basically delay. Here it is. To ensure the changes are polished and well balanced, we've decided to postpone the release until 2026. At the same time, we want to begin implementing some of the changes on the live server to make many quality of life improvements to aerial and related mechanics. Those changes aim to improve aerial spotting, visibility mechanics, and by making them more transparent and consistent, as well as providing the aircraft carrier and additional means to defend themselves. So they're going to roll out those changes. So the secondary, actually, yeah, they've got them here in this other article. And then they're going to do a new public test early in the year. So we're not going to see the aircraft carrier changes come. Scotto, did that surprise you, or when that announcement came out? I wasn't sure if they were going to delay it or not. I guess I didn't predict that, but I did think that it was interesting that they were going to choose to roll out some of the mechanics.
Oh, I can't talk about this topic.
Well, in that case, we won't. We'll just move along.
I mean, a little bit. What I will say a little bit, which I think is safe to say with my NDA, is we don't, like, in regards to how test has looked at these things, like, we find out when we're going to test it almost the same minute that that blog went out.
Yeah, like the general public announcement.
Yeah,
like the same
and so
thing.
and that's been that way with these CV changes. There's not, like, at least from in the program that I'm in, when that blog went live, that was like letting us know, oh, by the way, and so on that basis alone, I'm not surprised that they are not ready to do the whole thing that they had talked about doing like a year ago, and that they're pushing some of that back, because it seems to me like they have added a lot more things to the original plan.
They make a comment in here about that specifically. They say we're still committed to the general design. We think it's going to work, but we thought, basically there's a line in here where it says we thought of some cool stuff that we want to add, and that's this, like, tactical consumables and some of the other things we've seen as well.
Yeah, and I think because that it's, you know, an evolving project for them, that I think, you know, just in general, being in a similar industry, or at least I don't think it's a bad I don't think it's a bad thing if you think you can add time to your production schedule to add things that you think are enhancements. I say that, you know, you think, or we, you know, don't know.
Players may have a very different opinion.
But I mean, if you think you can add to your delivery schedule, and push it out to the right, and you think you're doing that for reasons that you think are good, I mean, okay, like,
yeah. If you feel like you have the flexibility and you've got a cool opportunity, like a business opportunity, and that's the thing I always like to remind people when we talk about this stuff is, you know, our goals for World Warships are different from the company's goals, right? They have different constraints and concerns that we don't have, and we have different constraints and concerns that they don't have. And so, you know, like you say, it's going to be the thing they think they've got an opportunity, they think they've got a good idea here, they're going to take that time and roll that in. So what I like is that we're getting some of the stuff, right? We're not seeing a big change to this spotting, although there's a couple of things that I can't remember what I read. Let's see here. I want to hit this list. We've made several changes regarding the visibility of ships to reduce spotting. Fires now increase the aerial detection by 2 kilometers instead of 3. So that's not mini-map spotting, right? It's not a massive reduction in spotting, but that is less spotting from aircrafts for surface ships in the case that they're on fire and they're within certain ranges. It does say all planes controlled by planes now have the same detectability range. That doesn't necessarily help you be unspotted, but it does let you see those planes from a standard 10 kilometers, which is going to make it easier for you as the player to control your spotting when you're looking at aircraft. If you can see airplanes and they're further than 10 kilometers away, you're safe. If they're less than 10 kilometers away, you could be spotted. So while it doesn't necessarily change the carriers thing, unless obviously they had particularly stealthy planes, that's a thing there. Talk about the depth charge airstrikes and AI controlled planes. They all have the same detectability range as well. Aerial spotting is no longer increased by firing the main battery of the ship. So again, the planes can still spot you, but when you fire your guns, your gun bloom does not help aircraft see you. Now, this is a little bit, it breaks the verisimilitude. It doesn't seem very realistic, but that's another thing where when you shoot your guns, an aircraft carrier is going to have a harder time spotting you. But if any other ship could spot you, they could still come and see you. You know what I mean? And then all ships now have the same max base detectability range by air, 10 kilometers. It also affects the periscope detectability, and then the standard spotting range at which player-controlled aircraft can render ships is set to 20 kilometers. So again, this is all pretty minor stuff in the grand scheme. It's not the promise of the whole change, but they did roll out some of it, which will ease pressure in a way that I think players probably won't experience directly. But overall, it probably will reduce that spotting I looked at 100,000 battles sense. It will help you, but for me, when I'm playing, I don't think I'm going to notice these in a major way. But it is the beginning of that spotting change. I talked for a long time there, and I know you said with a lot of this you probably shouldn't comment with your NDA, so I'll free you of that responsibility unless you have a thought.
I thought I'd ask you a question actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of throw it back at you. So when I started playing Warships with you, it was in the middle of the original CV rework. And so when I started playing, there were no CVs in the game. Mm-hmm. And then maybe like a month or two later, they dropped the patch that brought CVs back in the format they're in now, where you fly the planes around and do that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so you having had played in both eras, like, people talk about RTS era, blah blah blah, and I'm not really, the question I would have isn't really about that, but the question I would have is, because I wasn't around at that time, did they do, and like, so what you're talking about is how they're doing some incremental changes, how they're making a change. They're talking about a few changes there that, and you used your vocabulary word of the day in regards to verisimilitude, and you talked about how they're doing some stuff, and it's not the whole Megillah, and there's going to be more coming later in theory. And my memory of CV rework before was that they took out CVs and RTS CVs, and then some number of patches later they dropped CVs back in that were the CV
new
fly around CVs, right? And so I would contend that this is CV rework 2. I don't think there was one other one that I could think of. So do you think it's good that they're maybe doing it in bits, or trying some stuff like, we're going to do these things, we're going to put these in, because it seems like what they're talking about there, they're going to go to prod with at some point in the future, or maybe they're going to do they'll put them in a special mode. I know they've done that in the past, where some of, like, there was that time with the last time where they put them in and it was only certain CVs, and there was like mine layers and stuff. I think that was a CV thing they did.
They did that special mode for those.
What's your take on that? Do you think it's good to try to like sprinkle some of the things along and see what works, what doesn't, get people used to some of it, or do you think it's better just to kind of rip off the Band-Aid and go, nope, here's all these changes at once?
It's kind of interesting. Like, I think this is better, because you may remember when they did that last time around, and you may not, but like when they did that last time around and they threw the I like Biggles's comment here. I would like to see their Jira epics and stories. That's a joke for a fraction of the audience there.
I do not believe they use Jira, but continue.
They use whatever the Serbian version of Jira is. No, I don't know. But I would say there's one thing that I think about with that is when they dropped those carriers back in, there were a lot of problems. And then they had to go back to the drawing board and re-wrench on those and re-wrench on those and re-wrench on those. One of the things that we see, and again, working in not the gaming industry, but working in technology, right, is that when an organization is doing so, and I'm not necessarily saying this is what's happening here, there's actually another option as well, but when an organization is making a big change, if they have thought it all the way through and they kind of understand their goals, which I think Wargaming did a good job of stating their goals, whether or not, again, players like them, whether or not you like them, whether or not I like them, great question. But they stated out their goals, so they had kind of a North Star they were following. And then they've made some plans. They've made some course corrections, because that's what happens in software development. It's not like designing a car or a bridge or anything. It's very different. But they definitely had like a plan, and rolling these things out in little pieces, first of all, I think is safer. They can see the changes as they go. They've identified the full set of changes that they want to make. Again, they've added some, and we're going to talk about these tactical consumables here in a minute as one example. But they can kind of see how the changes occur over time, and they can kind of make these smaller course corrections as they're going. And it shows a little bit of engineering maturity, potentially, and I'll say potentially because maybe not. Because it looks like, you know, they've kind of thought this thing through. They've got a plan and they're executing to that plan. They're going to deliver the pieces that are ready as they can. Now, it could also be that it's not engineering maturity and that they're just like, well, this is the stuff we have done, so ship that real quick to satisfy the monster, and then we'll go back and we'll do some more work. I don't get the feeling that that's what's happening. I think they're releasing the parts that are ready. And the good news about that is we're going to get a chance to see the effect of those on the game, and how that comes, and then they can tune and tweak that stuff as they need to go. So for me, I think this is a healthier way to do this, to make smaller changes incrementally. And having lived through the last CV rework where they dropped it and there were some major problems that they had to go back to the whiteboards and redesign and rework, and then put out like 3-4 more patches to correct this stuff. This is like back in the 8.8 era, right? That's how long ago we're talking, 8.5 or 8.8, somewhere around there.
Yeah. It was the spring of 2019.
Yeah, I mean, it's been some time, yeah, right? And so to me, I think this is a good idea. And again, like I said, with the things we just read off a moment ago, those aren't the kind of things that I think a player is going to notice, but you will see that in the data. And if you see enough of those changes over time, players will start to experience that in their games, right? And this will let them kind of make those tiptoes. Now, they've got a lot of stuff to come. There's going to be a future, assuming they continue down the path they're going, and I think they will, where a carrier is going to be able to legitimately say, I need intelligence data, and a destroyer or a submarine or a cruiser, somebody's going to have to spot a target so the carrier can drop in and make that cool play, just like a battleship shooting from great range. And that's going to be the bigger change to spotting. And we got to remember, too, that when you're in a 12-on-12 battle, you're still going to be spotted. I didn't mean to get into this topic this deep today, but here we go. You're still going to be spotted by lots of other people who aren't the carrier. So lots of the interactions are going to feel the same. It's when you're off getting soloed that you may see a little bit different behavior from the carrier and a little bit more trouble where they're having to spot you, you know. But no, I think that's an insightful question. I'm kind of curious what others think. So obviously, if you guys are watching this later on YouTube, hit us up in the comments. And of course, if you're on Twitch with us now, drop some thoughts there into the chat, and we'll take a look at those as we go. No, good question, man. To move along, it does look they're going to do a test of new tactical consumables. It says previous tests have shown there's room to introduce new strategic mechanics to aircraft carriers. Our aim is to make aircraft or play more varied and engaging when you're controlling planes and flying over the battlefield. So we want to give carriers additional means to influence battles and support their teammates. I like the sound of support their teammates. Let's see how it comes out. That is why we are going to start testing tactical consumables for aircraft carriers. If you were around for the Pinata Hunt or maybe competed in Clan Battle Season 25, you may find the concept of tactical consumables familiar, similar to support consumables. They're going to try 2 of these out, and one of them is Call Patrol Fighters, and another is Call Smoke Curtain. So when you and I had talked about, speculated wildly before there was any real details about the American destroyers, I thought, ooh, they said there's going to be a new smoke mechanic. And I thought, oh, maybe it's going to be smoke over there. I'm not exactly sure that that's what this is, but that's what it sounds like to me, is they're maybe able to call in a smoke curtain somewhere else, rather than just dropping it from the planes that you're flying right now. And if that's the case, that'd be kind of cool. And then they've got to call patrol fighters. I don't know if it's patrol fighters over there or if it's patrol fighters where I'm at. We'll have to see what this winds up coming out and looking like. It does say that you can activate the tactical consumables while controlling your aircraft. When you activate a consumable, a tactical map will appear and you can select the area you want to apply it to. So there it is. It's over there. It's not necessarily where I am right now. And if you're a carrier, that's nice because it means you can be going somewhere, going out there to execute a mission or a plan or do a goal that you have, but you can still interact with things elsewhere on the map, which can support your team. Which I think that's interesting. We'll have to wait and see how powerful it is, right? Always concerned about power creep for any class, not just aircraft carriers. But I like the idea of them being able to support me. I'm in trouble over here. Help, help. You can throw some smoke on me and you can still go do the thing you want to do. That's always that thing in a carrier. And you've experienced this, I'm sure, where, you know, your teammates begging you to do stuff and you're like, well, I'm kind of doing something, bro. Like, you know, so hopefully that's the kind of thing that winds up being fun.
I think generally when they talked a long time ago, and I know people still mistakenly refer to them as that, but when they introduced the US carrier split, there was a dev blog or something a long time ago where they talked about that split being support carriers.
Yeah.
They didn't end up that way. Wargaming does not call them that. People still do. People still do mistakenly. But there was a lot of mechanics that they hinted at back then in the dev blogs that would lend themselves to the concept of that actually being a support class. They ended up pulling back from that and just putting out like Essex, which is just epically good. Now,
yeah, Essex just wound up to be a strong, good.
I think personally, as much hatred, good, bad, or indifferent as there is
such a strong word. Yeah,
well, I mean,
it's good. It's a good word.
And you know, so
it's the right
like
word.
we talked about doing this. This news is a week old. We talked about doing this last week, and the honest discussion I had with you was, you're going to go ahead and do that and put up with the people not like being grumpy about it. Because anything about subs or CVs, people just get bent, and it's just.
And I said no, I don't want to go.
Yeah, you said no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't want to do that
right.
tonight. You're like, I'd rather go fight Darth Vader 50 times in a row in that Star Wars game. And I was like, all right, I get you.
Yeah, anyway, I didn't have the energy for it, man. Yeah.
I think a smart design decision would be shifting the whole reality of that class to being a support role, and having them be less clandestine damage dealers, which frankly is the biggest grump
it is
that 45% win rate battleship players have about CVs is that guy could hit me and I can't get him with my big guns and I'm a big gun. And it's that whole thing, right? And it's like, okay, buddy, like sometimes there's counters to your class. It's a game.
Right.
But if they want to go away from that and they want to make CVs lead in a lot heavier in the concept of like, I'm here as a healer, I'm the healer class, or I'm the, you know, let's say they're not dropping heals, but if they're doing
or whatever, it doesn't have to be heals,
crowd control or whatever if you think of like game design from like other games, like party-based games, like, well, what are the other support roles, right? And trying to come up with the concept of that, be it smoke curtains or fighter planes or spotter planes or calling in mines or those kind of things, as opposed to just flying out and just torpedoing the bejesus out of everybody. You might actually, a different kind of player would choose to play CV then, because the people who play CV as CV Chads now aren't going to go, wow, well, this sucks. I'm used to getting 200,000 damage and smacking around suckers. They're not going to want to play that then. They're not going to get the same jollies out of playing CV if it plays that way. They'll all switch to subs then.
Right.
But you know, there is a possibility there where you could reinvent the whole class as that, and maybe it would be less, people would consider it less toxic. I doubt it. People would just be like, that guy sucks at doing the support thing, and they'd complain about him then that
they'd
way.
Find a new way to hate them because it's culturally ingrained, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
Gorillas.
I think there's some interesting opportunities there to do things like that with the class.
I do too. I'm a fan of these kinds of mechanics. I think they're cool. I like playing a support class. Gorilla says yes. Cleric boats. Brand says support is my favorite role in any game, which is true for me too. Like I always played like those kinds of classes in Team Fortress 2. I liked playing the engineer and putting up turrets and giving people ammo and dispensers and things like that. Like I like that stuff. I play clerics in D&D. I like that kind of thing, or at least sometimes I do. But it's one of those things that is challenging for them to figure out how to.
Always dwarves.
Often dwarves, yes. I'm very much a dwarf player. But and Biggles makes the comment. Actually, he's making the point I was thinking about too, which is, how do they XP those guys? They haven't demonstrated a lot of ways to XP that stuff, but I think they could figure it out if they really put their minds to it, and I think it'd be fine. Which would be
I
cool.
mean, that would be a rework. You'd have to figure out those, so how to quantify those skills and rework it for that purpose.
Yeah, how do you give those guys kudos when they do a good job, right? Or those guys and gals. This is a little GIF here that shows how this works. When you drop the smoke or the fighters, it deploys a flare. In this case, it looks like it's puffing out green smoke. There's no guarantee that that's going to be final. That is visible to your team and the enemy team. And there's a period of time before the effect, whether it's smoke or fighters, activates. And so your enemies can kind of see, oh no, that guy's going to go dark. I better get my guns on him real quick. And I think that's kind of a fun interaction. I'm glad that there's an indicator there for the enemy team to see that as well. And so it's I'm all for it. I'm curious to see how this goes. And if this is what we get because they pause and they take advantage of a few extra months of development, and it comes out nicely, is provided they do a good job. I like the idea of the mechanic, and if they can execute it well, I think this is worth waiting until early next year. But I'm also not somebody who's really like over here, chomping at the bit to see new carriers get out into the game. I've been playing the game for 10 years. I'm fine with carriers more or less as they are. Like I'm obviously still playing, right? So I'm not gonna like, oh, I'm not coming back till they finish the carriers. Like that's not gonna affect me in that way. And then down here they've got the patrol. That one's the smoke GIF there. This is the patrol fighters thing. I'm not sure what they're showing us with this GIF here. Looks like you can see they go to the big map. They drop a circle on the map. We'll watch that one more time. So here they are, they're flying, they're going where they want to go. They go to the big map, they drop fighters over there. And again, that's super cool. It almost has like a hint of RTS, but I know that anybody who enjoyed the RTS carriers would say, that is not RTS. And you're right, it's not. But it's a little bit more, I can interact with more of the map, but in a support way. And I think that's going to prove to be interesting. Because it brings back a little bit of that I can be everywhere at once, even though you really can't be with these new carriers, or the carriers as they have been since 8 point whatever. Okay, and then here's the smoke curtain. We're seeing these planes fly. They'll probably show deploying a smoke curtain here. Let's see what this looks like. Go to the big map. There was a no symbol on that. Watch that one more time. There must be a limited range that you can deploy it on, because when he first pops up, it says, nope, you can't put it there, you can't put it there, but you can bring it back over here and deploy the smoke. So that's kind of interesting. There must be a limited range to it. They've also got a new AA tool. At the top of this article, they almost say something like manual AA, and it didn't really read like that when I read this section. I was like, oh boy, they shouldn't give us manual AA. I know people have asked for it, and I think it'd be interesting, but I think it would be a poor choice for this particular game. It says we are going to test a new AA tool, which is called Aimed Fire, which replaces the previously tested automatic AA defense reinforcement. So that mechanic that they tested before was basically if a carrier attacks you again and again and again, your AA buffs up to a certain point. And it's supposed to naturally dissuade the carrier because they're going to naturally start losing more planes. I didn't really feel that too much when I played it myself, but I'm sure CV mains who are a little bit more skilled and more sensitive to that might have noticed better than I did. Aimed Fire will have a special progress bar that fills under 2 conditions: when there's an enemy aircraft firing within the firing range of your AA defenses, and when your AA defenses fire at enemy aircraft. What's interesting to me is that those are actually 2 different states the system can be in. And so the aircraft can be within your firing range and your guns cannot yet be firing. And then when the guns actually do start to fire, the bar starts to fill faster. So once the progress bar is filled, you can activate Aimed Fire by pressing V to get a temporary bonus to AA damage. Just like with your combat instructions, if the conditions are not met for a certain period of time, you'll begin to lose that accumulated process. So again, you'll get a little bit of a booster that charges up. In the old system, it would activate automatically. Now you can press the V button to get a bonus to AA damage, which basically does one of 2 things. When an aircraft when a carrier is attacking you, it's giving you the juice to respond. It's charging up this bar for you, but you, the player, get to choose when to turn that on now, because there may be a time where you're like, well, I'll wait for his next strike to come around because these planes are already almost dead. It's only going to drop me with one bomb or whatever. Yeah, I think that's pretty similar, Brand. Yeah, to how the combat instructions for the secondary boosts and things work. And that's kind of what we got here. Scott, any other thoughts on this? I kind of monologued there for the last bit, but
Well, no, I mean,
Anything
I can't
else?
talk to
Yeah,
any of the other stuff really.
yeah.
I would say, you know, the comment in chat there from Gorilla, AA buffs up. What's 100 or 200% of nothing?
Sure.
I think that's a fair question. Because I think most of us, and I've talked about this before when we had conversations about CV reworking in the past, where it'd be like, how about you rework it by actually like making some ships no-fly zones again?
Right. Right.
So I don't know what 100 or 200% of how it currently is would feel, because right now it feels ineffectual.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, one of the best things that we have right now is when you hit the tilde key and you get that instant puff of damage. And then I believe in the mechanic they were testing before, that was gone, right? And so I missed
and
that.
it still is. They talk in here about how flak is just, it's been re-added as a visual.
Right. Right.
But it
that was the
doesn't
thing I was
say
not
that
excited about, but
doesn't say it's been re-added as a you know, a damage affecting thing as it is now. So, and I've always felt that when you do the tilde key, that's your best chance of actually knocking down planes is if your ship puts enough flak up that the guy flies through it, because the continuous AA damage, it sucks. It's not enough.
Well, and even
You know,
flak aside, you got like a 5% automatic hit when you hit that button, right? Even if they didn't hit anything, you get a little 5%, and then if they hit the puffs, even better. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
So
you know,
and that was missing and made me sad. But let's talk about buffs and nerfs here. We got the our top story here this fine evening, and this is coming up here in public test 14.7. You guys have been here for this before, Scott. This is our favorite time of year. We got our little. I do love when they do this. Yeah, go ahead.
It feels like about quarterly we're getting one of these now, where they go, hey, we're just going to go through a bunch of ships and we're going to tweak some stuff, and I'm glad they're doing that. Yeah, no, it's good. I do think that it feels like for the last like 3 or maybe 4 of these, it's been basically straight buffs and almost no nerfs. There's been a couple, but it's been buffs all the time. And I don't know if I care if there's an arms race for buffs. Like, I don't know if that matters to me, provided balance is getting a little bit better as we go. But we'll want to keep our eyes open for that as we start talking about these. And we'll kick off with Agano, the tier 5 Japanese cruiser on the Yodo line. This ship is getting what I think are some pretty well-deserved buffs. If you've played this boat, and many of you probably free XP'd fasted or never played it, but she struggles. She's got a pretty poor reload and not very good gun range and no armor to speak of. And so what she's getting is better reload. She's getting a 0.7 second buff on the main battery reload, and she's getting a 0.5 kilometer detectability decrease, which is a good thing. If she can be stealthy a little bit more often, that's going to be her best tactic for getting out of danger's way. Other than saying this is just naturally a good thing, I don't have a whole lot of other comments on the Agano changes. Any thoughts on your side, Scott, on that one? Yeah, I mean, I think the low end of that line, well, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that line in general.
For sure, yeah.
But I think the low end of that line sucks on ice. And so, like, any help this, like, if you compare, like, Agano, what's it have, like 6 guns at tier? It's got 6 guns.
It's not good.
At tier 5, it has no armor. It's compared to other newer tier 5s, like if you compare it to the what's the La Argentina. La Argentina is like so better.
It's such a better ship.
Like Delhi is it's got like long range torpedoes. Like Delhi is so much better, the Commonwealth one.
Yeah.
I would say Galicia, the Spanish one. This one was just crap. And so make it better, I guess.
I don't know if this
you can get through it quicker. No, but at least it's not. I mean, this one and the Gokase are both just not fun to play.
Right.
And there's no reason, in my opinion, to ever go play them after you've gotten through with them.
Like, I'd rather play Yubari than this, and that's a tier 4 premium with 4
Yubari's
guns.
Accurate.
Yubari will hit stuff and and it can dance a little bit. It's not as long, I don't think. And anyway, this is probably more than anybody wants on the Agano.
It's big Agano
discussion.
Okay, so when we talk about the guns, are they a 1 or a 5?
Exactly. Why don't you take us to I-56?
Check out hot takes on YouTube.
Hot takes for Agano today. All right, tell us about I-56. What are they changing on this one?
Oh, now I have to have the dev blog up.
Oh, do you not?
I-56.
Oh, sorry.
I do now.
Yeah.
I was looking at Agano import. Hydrophone consumable parameters changed. So I-56 hydrophone consumable range increased from 7 to 9 kilometers.
Nice little buff.
Cooldown reduced from 80 to 30 seconds, and
Big
one
buff.
more charge of it. So yeah, now it does things.
Right.
I don't have it in my port. You do, I assume.
Yes.
Is that like anywhere near similar to like something that I-5644 does or whatever it's called?
Yeah, that's a good
question. I
question.
don't know the name of it, what it turned out into, but you probably have it.
It's the Arona's Whale. Let's see. I-56 has the hydrophone. Right now, 7 kilometers. Obviously, you just read off the new numbers.
Yeah.
If we look at Arona's Whale, she's got 9 kilometers with a 30-second cooldown. Would you look at that?
That's what I wondered, if they were just making it match the I-5644 or whatever it's. What'd you say, Arona's Whale?
Arona's Whale, and it's also got 5 charges. It's basically the same thing that Arona's Whale
they that's a straight buff for that tier 8, so that's cool.
Yeah, and the hydrophone for I-56 was wacky too, because its concealment is like 7 kilometers, right? So like, to use the original flavor, the 7 kilometer one was really risky. It was hard to do, right? So this will be at least somewhat more usable, and you'll be able to crank them out. 30-second cooldown, yes please. For people who are playing I-56, this will make this boat a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of folks out there that are like jumping in the I-56 game.
Second only to Agano's popularity on the stream tonight is I-56.
And you know, like, and it doesn't, and that's not sub surveillance. Remember, folks, like hydrophone on subs is the one that lets the submarine see like ghost pings of surface vessels.
That's right, not sub surveillance.
But,
that's right.
So it is what it is, but it's cool now that it matches the tier. I think
10.
it's the other one, a tier 10.
I think I said it was a 9, but it's a 10.
I can't remember. It's not a 9, right? It's a sub, so I think it's a 10, right? So,
yes, it is 10.
Yeah,
confirmed.
So there you go, folks.
There you go. Harugumo, everybody's favorite research point reset boat, is getting some buffs. The main battery shell ballistics are going to have flatter trajectories, and the rudder shift time is coming down 0.6 seconds. One of Harugumo's big weaknesses is that she's hard to turn, and she handles a little bit like a tub. So this is nice. And of course, the trajectories being flatter is good too. Lots of DPM on Harugumo, but I don't know. For me, I've always enjoyed Kitakami better. Or Kitakaze, excuse me, Kitakaze better. And so I don't think that this is necessarily making it like Kitakaze. I don't have all the numbers here to compare, but if it makes it handle a little bit better, it might make Harugumo a little bit more fun to play through.
Yeah, it's just really big. So that rudder shift, I think its turning circle still sucks, but
probably,
I mean, the rudder shift won't hurt as much if you're trying to like dodge torps or whatever. I think most Harugumo captains are sitting in their, you know, your mid here Harugumo captains are just sitting in smoke gunning away, and so rudder shift's not going to help them eat those Shima or Jaeger torps that come get them in their smoke anyway.
No,
but
the ballistics will be nice help though, right? When you're doing that same task.
Yeah. But I mean, like, as far as you said, I think this is a good upgrade for Harugumo, and when I reset it every few months for research points, I'm glad it'll have these stats.
Yeah, same. In fact, I've got to reset mine now. It's we just had the quarter come around. It's a new season.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, oh, cool, buffs. That'll be nice. Shinano is getting some nerfs. So we just talked about aircraft carriers previously. Here's some nerfs to Shinano steel carrier. And so we never like to see, at least I don't, when I have steel boats, I don't like to see nerfs come into my steel ships. So your Shinano fans out there are going to feel this. Now your aerial torpedo damage is coming down. Looks like about 700 damage, or exactly 700 damage. And your AP skip bomb damage is coming down 700 damage as well. Those AP skip bombs are gnarly. So I personally don't mind seeing this change. This is good for me. But if I was somebody who just spent my 30,000 or 30,000 coal or something, or steel, excuse me, I'd feel a little sad about this. That said, I don't think it's a surprise to people with the changes to this carrier. FR25 is an Italian premium destroyer. This is one I've always felt was a little bit weak. I think you've got this boat too, Scotta. It's getting a little small damage increase, 200 damage. This is a welcome change, I think, for FR25.
I don't think anybody plays FR25. I really liked the idea of FR25 when it came out. If I had my druthers based on all the tweaks they've done in this this blog on other things.
Yeah.
You could keep the shell damage at 2,700,
Go on.
but find one of these lines in here they put on a bunch of other boats that says, as a result, shells will have flatter ballistics. And
that's all you want.
That line. If you put that on FR25, it'd be way more fun to play because the shells don't have great ballistics, and it's hard to. That extra 200 damage, if you can get it on target at any kind of range, God bless you.
Yeah, that is a factor for sure. The other issue I have with this boat, if I want to just complain about it a little bit, is the 6.3 concealment is a bit challenging. 5 guns, 6.3 conceal. She's got some speed. She's got the smoke. She's fun, and maybe some torpedo range. I think 7-kilometer torpedo range. But I'll take the bonus gun damage if they're going to give it to me. Yeah,
I think they buffed the I think this is like not the first buff for this. I feel like it got buffs after release to the torp range.
I think you might be right. I think it was 6s, and
I think they were
7s.
6s.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know that there's a lot of FR25 fans out there clamoring to improve it, but I don't think this doesn't do it for me. So
no, small change, but again, welcome. What you've got Piemonte, right? You want to talk us through that one?
Yeah. So this is the tier 11 or super ship above Venezia. Main battery parameter changed. We're getting more range, 17.8 to 18.7 base range. Sap shell damage bumped up bigly from 7,000 to 7,500. AP damage from 6,100 to 6,750. And a shell velocity decrease. Now, these shells were already smoking at 945 meters per second, but we're just going to go ahead and take them out to 1,000 meters per second. And as a result, the shells will have flatter ballistics and increased AP shell pen. So the increased AP shell pen part's interesting. I'm guessing at those speeds, what that ship has like 254s or something.
I just pulled it
so
up.
it has like the same size as like Napoli's guns, right?
Yeah.
So like with increased shell pen and the velocity there, I wonder if that AP is going to feel very like Petro-esque or Russian-esque.
This is going to rip.
I don't think
good, but I thought it needed that much gun range. I thought it needed 18 something, and now it's got it.
This is one of those 11s that I've always thought wasn't as good as the 10. I'd rather play Legmod Venezia than play this thing.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
So I don't know if this is going to increase the amount of
Piemonte stands.
Yeah, I don't know. But and then that range buff. Venezia doesn't have epic range either without it. It has to throw its
mid 17s, I think. It's
it's like 17-1-ish, I think. So like you have to throw its spotter up and so this clearly is like, well, it's a tier better. Like, so that's I don't want a guy with raining at 1,000 meters per second. I'm really curious, and I can't wait to log into PTS this weekend and try this one. Because I'm really curious if you can just like Citadel stuff at like 15, 16 kilometers with this like Stalingrad now.
Will. Yeah. No, I like these changes for Piemonte. My first couple of battles in Piemonte, I had a great time, but I did find that I struggled with the gun range because I was getting into dangerous places. Sometimes that's just me sailing too close to bad guys. But if I have great ballistics and longer range, that's a combination that lets me stay safely at range, and I won't accidentally wander into dangerous positions.
Yeah, I mean, my argument with Piemonte was always that the hull is like tall and takes sits and stuff. So like, I didn't really like the ship itself compared to Venezia, but
Brandon chat says, isn't that shell velocity like Petro? It's actually 5 meters per second faster than Petro. I just double checked. Petros are 995s with 220 millimeter shells. These are 254s going 1,000 meters per second. So it actually exceeds. If there's a shell race between those two ships, Piemonte will kill Petro before Petro kills Piemonte. They might both still die though. So we'll see how that pans out. They got the Vrijheid or the Jarhead or whatever. We're seeing some changes to, and you'll see lists. It goes Vrijheid, Jaarsveld, then Coehoorn, and Utrecth all in a row here, and they're all getting a very similar treatment. Let's take a look at the ones here on the premium. The reload time on the bombs is going from 38 seconds to 48 seconds with a damage increase of 800 damage. A fire chance is pushing up 5% from 33 to 38. Remember, that is affected by the tier of the ship you're attacking, whether or not it's fully upgraded, whether or not they have a captain on there that's reducing fire chance, things like that. And then the armor pen is going from 34 to 37 millimeters. Now, when I read this morning, I thought, it's a little up and a little down. But you had kind of a different thought about what this was doing to these ships. And you can take a look at these other ones if you want to talk about Utrecth or these others.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stop on Vrijheid in particular. So this was the premium. So the other four or the other three are tech line, but this is the premium. I'm disappointed these changes are happening to Vrijheid. I think they could have left it how it was, as it was the premium. Vrijheid, comparatively to Jaarsveld and Coehoorn and Utrecht, has much shorter range for its drops, if I remember right. I think its airstrikes don't have the kind of, like, I think you have to be closer, and that's why Vrijheid has a smoke generator. It's like a premium undrocked at tier 8 that has that, and it does some weird stuff. And so, like, I liked Vrijheid for what it was. When I see these and across the board, when you're talking about we're gonna hammer the reload, and it's really bad on the up tier ones. They're going to hammer that reload, but hey, don't worry, we're giving you... They're trying to hide that behind, well, we'll make the bombs do more, and they get more fire chance and more pen. So what they're doing there is they're trying to math it out, right? They're trying to say, well, the DPM on this with the current reload and with whatever this stuff was is this number. If we bust the reload up 10 seconds, how do we keep that DPM math? And I'm guessing it's similar, right? And that's what they've done here. But it's not going to feel as powerful, in my opinion, to the players because you're getting less bites at the apple every match, right? One of the cool things about this line was how quick those things came back. Not cool if you're playing against it, but you can point to that all over the game, right? But playing them, I thought it was cool how quick the bombs reloaded, or how quick you got your flights back for that gimmick, right? So I find that be a little disappointing, but on Vrijheid particularly, I would have let it be. I don't know what I don't believe that there's a million people with Vrijheids out there, and
no,
I don't know that. Rare. I just think I would have left it with the original release design concept, but take it into Jaarsveld now and talk about that, right? I mean, like, the changes here to me feel more severe when you start looking at the reload changes.
Yeah, Jaarsveld's got worse reload than Vrijheid anyway, right? So 38 seconds are pushing up to 48 on Vrijheid, 55 seconds, already worse than that 48, and it's going up to 73. But it's only getting 1% more fire chance than we have in the premium. Same penetration and slightly more damage, 6,900, nice, instead of 6,600. And I did go double check the ranges while you were chatting there. I put those in chat.
I see, yeah,
so
appreciate that.
Vrijheid 9.5, Jaarsveld has 11 kilometers, so a little bit more range. And then it goes up with the Van Coehoorn and the Utrecht as well. And then you're seeing that kind of scales, but that 73-second reload that we're going to have on Jaarsveld, not so bad. It's only 67 seconds on Van Coehoorn and 60 seconds on Utrecht. So you do see some power growth as you go up the tiers, but the penetration stays the same, 37 millimeters everywhere, 39% fire chance everywhere. And the thing is that 39% fire chance against a tier 8 or a tier 6 is not as affected as it is against a tier 10 or a tier 11. So Utrecht's going to feel like it gets fewer fires, and that's why I think the reload is a little bit shorter. Fewer fires per bomb, for example, or per minute of bombs or whatever. But that reload being a little bit shorter, I think, is probably to counter that because of the fire resistance. I got a whole video on YouTube about how the fire resistance works. If that's something you're curious about, the math formula behind it, it's kind of a nerdy video. You might not like it, but check it out if you're curious about that. So I think you're right that they mathed this out to try to keep a steady damage curve for the ships as they go up in tier.
Yeah. And that, the switch, though, from 34 to 37 millimeters for them all for pen is a big deal. Because that's like a tip over point for a lot of deck armor thickness, right? So that means you're going to get, if you don't hit superstructure and you don't hit the top of a turret, which you're gonna, because it's all over the place, but like that's going to give you more. That's going to give you more full pens with these. And give you more of that alpha damage on that hit. So, I'd be curious. I think it's gonna feel a certain way, but I think mathed out over the long run, you're just gonna get, it's just gonna be less productive because you're just getting less opportunity with that reload change.
Yeah, if I kind of do the Kentucky windage, lick your finger and hold it out there. I think this is a small nerf overall. but it's not nasty bad, but it's probably a small nerf. That we'll have to
I'll
wait and
have to see how it
pans
feels.
out. Yeah.
I tend to think it's a nerf hit that they're trying to hide by saying, but oh, look at all these things we buffed.
And maybe not necessarily hide, but they made it complicated. It's sort of like the tokens and the currencies and all that. Like it's kind of masked behind this illusion of lots of stuff. But yeah.
Do you want to talk about my tinfoil hat opinion on this, or let that go?
I do. I don't know what it is. I don't remember. Maybe you told me, but
oh,
yes,
okay.
Let's go.
So we'll just touch on it briefly.
Okay.
But when this line's been out like 6 months or whatever.
Oh, this
line.
Yeah. Okay.
This tinfoil hat theory. When this line's been out for like 6 months or whatever. When this line came out, all of your favorite CCs who did content about this line probably talked about how awesome the strikes were. Look at all these strikes. I'm doing airstrikes all the time. Check me out, Mom. I'm doing these airstrikes. It's so much faster than Harlem and
look at me go.
Good and Lou and all that stuff, right? And it goes so well with this captain that came out. And check this out. It's awesome, right? And so the line's been out for 6 months. It's been out of early access for a long time. It's now a normal tech tree line. They're not making any money on selling it anymore like they did when it was in early access, and all that fever pitch was about it. So now we just make those changes now. We just change them now. That's my conspiracy theory on this kind of thing. It doesn't really hold a ton of water, because if that was the case, Libertad would have been nerfed by now. But
that's true. Real quick on your theory, do you mean to say? Because I think if I read between the lines a little bit here, again, tinfoil hats equipped. Make sure, chat, you put those on yourselves. Do you mean to say that they put them out there and maybe they didn't know right away, and maybe they discovered they were a little too powerful, but they waited? Or do you think they made them powerful and then they nerfed them later into the ground? Because I don't really think there's any reason for them to do that. Like, that's silly for a tech line. But I do think that maybe they could.
It is when you sell early access for a couple months.
Well, that's why I say maybe they could have held the overpowered portion or whatever. I like GMAC's comment here, by the way. Which part was the conspiracy? That's just how it works.
Right. That's fair, GMAC. That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. That's just wondering. Just thoughts.
That's a tale as old as time, what you've just shared with us. Specific example of, for sure. Yeah. Let's jump down here. Speaking of ships that came out and now they're adjusting them. La Hardi, L'Aventurier, the Adventurer, Orage, and Cassard. These are the French destroyers that they put out. These are the ones that have the variable damage torpedoes that lose damage the farther they swim. They're making some changes to how these babies work. The torpedo parameters have been changed. We'll look at La Hardi here, the tier 7. It says researchable torpedo maximum damage has been reduced from 19.2 down to 17.467. Torpedo damage scaling by distance has been changed. The torpedo damage at the maximum range has been increased from 40 to 55%. This will lead to higher damage when hitting targets at longer ranges. So generally, you'll see the same sort of pattern applied to these lower ships as well, although there is an extra line in these ones down below, which we'll take a look at here in a moment. But generally what they've done is they've reduced your total maximum damage, and then they've allowed the torpedoes that swim farther to hit a larger percentage of that damage. I think this is really just kind of squishing together, doing some compression on the extremity, if you will, or the extremeness of the damage tapering over time. And it's going to let the ship be a little bit more normal. It'll still have its flavor where the damage is better the closer you are, but it isn't going to be quite so pronounced, I think. And then the only reason we have Adventurer and Orage, they have researchable torpedoes, so they have 2 damage numbers is what's going on with the 8 and the 9. And then the 10, no researchable damage there. This doesn't bother me much. I was kind of disappointed in this line when it came out. I wanted to have another line of super cool French destroyers because I love the Kleber line. And I love the way these boats look. Like Cassard is a pretty ship, especially if you got the early access camo, which nobody has, unfortunately. And I liked these boats from an appearance perspective, but I found them to be a little bit slow. And I found the torpedo gimmick to be kind of uninteresting. This is kind of walking back from that a little bit, but still leaving it there. I don't know if I have a whole lot of feelings about this because I sadly didn't find these ships to be too fun to play myself. I don't know if there's anything that's rattling around in your noodle there on this one, or if you're just like, yep, that's what they did. Like,
yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy this line. So okay, like I didn't like the gimmick for starters, and that's what they're tweaking. It's all they did was go, okay, so we had to develop this code for submarines to stop shotgunning.
I guess we can use it
Where
again. You know.
what
Yeah.
how could we reuse that somewhere else? Well, we could flip it. We could put it
Right.
on these
Right.
DDs and try to make people understand that logic. Okay. And so that's kind of what they did. And they, you look at, Cassard's torpedoes were like so powerful, and they still are super powerful. But changing that damage scaling, they used to be at at the extreme range. They were
Yeah.
40% of that 24K, and now instead they're going to be 55% of 22K. I think that maths out to be more damage than it was before, but it's not going to be an epic change.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, to me, this line not that fun. I don't enjoy it that much. They're not especially fast. They have no smoke. They have no heal. So for me, because I'm a mediocre DD player, they're missing, a few of the legs of the DD tripod for me to have fun.
Right.
So, and the concealment's not amazing, but when I look at server statistics, for the last year, like Cassard is like the 35th most battled DD, like in NA. It's like it's got
didn't get a lot of play.
144,000 battles, and the number one is Shimakaze with 1.7 million. So followed by Jaeger and Holland and Gearing and Yamagiri. So I would contend the top 5 are probably played as torpedo boats. Gearing, you could argue with me that that's played as a hybrid. So if Cassard, in effect, if that line is a torpedo forward line and it's hybrid leaning torpedo,
right.
You would think it would be more popular if the majority of people like torpedo forward lines and it's not there. So I don't know that this makes it more popular. If they had came in here and they had said, yeah, we're putting smoke.
8 more
we're lowering
knots.
we're lowering the concealment on the Cassard to 5.4.
Yeah.
Then I think people would have been like,
you've got my attention.
Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't feel this line's that popular, so it probably could use some form of change. I don't know if this matters a ton though.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't going to change the tone and feel of the boat. It's still going to be like this line was, and so on. That's the way this is going to be. So it's still going to feel like they felt before. It's not going to change the way they play. It is changing the parameters. I did some math real quick. The researchable torpedo maximum damage reduced for Hardi is coming down to 91% of the damage it was before, but you're getting this increase from 40 to 55. So I think it is probably larger, an increase in damage for the ship over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just going to be the nature of that thing. So anyway, those destroyers are getting some changes. It's probably going to help with torpedo damage to an extent, but again, the line is still going to be and play like the line. So if you like that, that's good for you. You're getting a damage buff to your favorite boat. And we have seen Cassards show up in weird places. We saw a Cassard in clan battles the other week. Maybe that was on the EU server when I was merkin for Fisher and Friends. We had a couple of Cassards 2 battles in a row, right? And so that's a whole thing. So people are playing them. Now it might have just been somebody having fun with a boat they think is interesting. And we're all good to go. Picardie, why don't you tell us about Picardie, man? It's getting some buffs.
Well, Picardie, a very exciting Tier 8 French premium battleship. So Picardie, if you're not familiar, is like a Tier 7 Leon up-tiered to Tier 8 with its guns replaced by, does it have like 16 barrels? I think each of the turrets is 4 barrels of, what caliber are they? Like 300 millimeter or something. I can't, 305s maybe. They were the same guns off of the Toulon, which is a terrible premium, but more familiar to everybody now is the guns that are on the Mets, but not nearly as good as the version on the Mets. And so the Picardie is getting a Sigma value increase. So what this means, right? Sigma is how the percent of the chance of your shells landing closer to the center of where you shoot them in an ellipse based on horizontal and vertical dispersion. And so increasing this means that more shells are going to go towards where you put them. When you fire 16 shells with this thing now, it is truly a crazy, crazy shotgun effect. Now those shells are going to be a little bit tighter. This ship does have pretty good range. Now the ballistics, though, is the good change. They're just saying main battery shell ballistics change. Their trajectories will now be significantly flatter. So this ship had good range, but the shells were really high arcing at range, like Des Moines kind of crazy arcs.
Yeah.
And so like juicing this up is probably the exciting thing. Even if they move more like, Alsace or Richelieu guns or something, right? Even if you get, French tend to have pretty fast shells on battleships, and this one didn't. So just juicing that up might make this actually fun to play, and not kind of a clown shoe boat. And I think a lot of people might have gotten this. I feel like this is one of those like last year's Santa crate things where like
they put this in what used to be the tier 5 to 7 category.
Yeah, like it was like, oh, you opened a Santa crate and you got a Picardie, and so
if there was a conspiracy theory short list, this would have been
right. This is right up there with the what were the previous ones?
Makarov is the one people would have accused of being on a short list for sure. Yeah. What do you think about those ballistics though? Like if you had a smaller battleship shell that was going to land from a more vertical angle, do you think that would be more or less advantageous? I like the flatter trajectories because I think I'll hit more. Do you think it'll pen more, or do you think it'll pen less?
No, but I would ride the HE on this thing anyway.
Oh, you know what? Because of the way the AP is, that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah. I hate Toulon's guns, and I didn't like the AP on this. You'd have to ask our friend D-Rec, member of our clan, who has over 100 games logged in Picardie. No one could describe this ship to us better than he could. But I did not like those guns, and so like I would ride, especially because it's a tier 8 and you get bottom tiered all the time.
Yeah.
And they didn't have great pen. I remember doing like a drive-by with the AP against.
There he is.
I feel like I had to do like a drive-by with the AP against something, and it was just like shatters and junk. So hopefully like there's shell velocity. But I'm excited. I think it'll make the guns at least more fun to shoot.
Yeah. D-Rec jumps in chat and says, no one is more excited for the changes to Picardie than me. Probably because less than 100 people on NA are playing this boat. Sometimes you pick the ship. Sometimes the ship picks, as in Picardie's you. Oh man, that's terrible. Bad pun, I'm sorry. Long story short, for those who don't know, this was was first in my random bundles, and lucky me, practically free by Wargaming standards. I put over 100 battles into it. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with the now buffed Picardie, and I hope that it continues to treat you well. That's fun. Alsace, long time battleship in the game. Alsace has been around forever, and the main battery reload has been reduced from 32 to 30 seconds. I needed this on Tuesday when I had a terrible game in the Alsace. Those 2 seconds would have really changed my fate. I'm sure of it. That's not true. The Hawkins. Go ahead.
I don't think that's worth because it's a tier 9, so you could run reload in 6. So now that means the main battery reload is what, like 27,
26, 27, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So that's good. And I like Alsace, even though its accuracy is Garbo compared to Bourgogne. But Alsace was a boat I enjoyed playing when I leveled through that line. So I would not be disappointed. You're not
going to bulk in a 2-second buff.
No,
I remember it was popular with other people in the clan back when it was new too.
I hate battleships with a reload over 30. So
this is a good win for people with that opinion. I do think that Alsace is where the French line starts to be better again, right? Like if you were having a bum time in the Richelieu like I was, Alsace brings it back. She's a little bit smoother that way.
Richelieu's a good boat too, but whatever.
It is. I have a hard time getting it to pen ships, right? I just had a hard time with it myself. Yeah. But I know there are fans of the Richelieu out there. And Richelieu, real steel ship. We'd love to have a real historical ship in the game. And she's beautiful. It's a beautiful ship, even if you're just looking at it in port.
You like Jean Bar?
I do. And for that reason, I thought I would like Richelieu.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hawkins is a tier 5 heavy cruiser. That's on the Goliath line. It's kind of the Agano of the British line. It's getting a little bit of a reload buff as well, coming down 0.6 seconds. I think this is welcome. The Hawkins has like a really weird caliber of gun. If you guys want a nerdy fact to wow your World of Warships friends, let me pull this up real quick. Hawkins.
Like octagonal barrels. What's
They're
so weird about
190 millimeter guns. I don't know if very many 190s in the game, and this is one of them. Yeah. So anyway, those are coming down. I actually enjoyed playing Hawkins back in the day. I don't think it's terrible. It's got little dual torpedo launchers on the side, so it launches 2 torpedoes off each side. It's got these weird 190s, and at tier 5, those are big enough to punch through things that you'll come in contact with.
I think there's 2 guys on the EU server for the last year that every night they just play Hawkins v Agano, like 10 matches apiece.
Just
and I think they did this for us all. I think this finally the data showed up in the spreadsheet and they were like, oh, we got to buff these 2 tier 5 things that suck.
Thank you, Nigel and Luigi. Yeah. We appreciate you, like, and Hans or whoever these boys are. Thank you so much.
I think Nigel and Luigi are good picks.
Nigel's good for the Hawkins fan. Luigi would be I guess an Italian guy playing a Japanese boat. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, that's pretty great. Now Hawkins is out there. It's fine. It also has thin armor and all similar problems to what Agano has, right? So there's reasons to be sad about having to play Hawkins. We are seeing some buffs to the British submarines. So Undine, Sturdy, and Thrasher. This is every ship on the Thrasher line. They just got a 3-pack there. They're getting some increased damage for their torpedoes, so 600 damage for the stock torpedoes, and it looks like, what's that, 700 damage for the researchables on Undine, and that scales up as we look at these other ships as well. So we'll see that here. A little bit less on the Sturdies, stock torpedoes, but the same 700 damage buff. And then for the Thrasher, at 400 damage on the stocks, and then looks like 800 damage on the researchables. So these submarines, I can't speak with a lot of intelligence about submarines. I'm just not somebody who's steeped enough in the concepts of these boats, but I do know that the community definitely had an opinion that these British submarines were the least strong line to play between Germany, US, and the UK. So this is a welcome change, I think, for folks who are looking to play this line.
Yeah, I don't play submarines unless wargaming makes me, but these suck statistically, and just the damage on them was lame. So I think if you I'm looking at server stats for NA for the last year, and these 3, Undine, Thrasher, and Sturdy, are all next to each other, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, really?
But like just looking at Thrasher, the 10, it was only 177,000 matches logged in it so far, but only amongst 6,600 players.
Wow, those dudes are putting in work. It's submains are so weird, and I say this with as much love as I could possibly muster. There are submains out there who have like 3,000 and 4,000 battles in the tier 10 or whatever, and they just hit battle over and over again. So maybe that doesn't surprise me.
Comparatively, right behind the 3 UK subs on this list is the S1, which is the tier 6 Russian sub that hasn't been out very long, and it has 18,595 players. Of course, a lot of people got it like early access, right?
Yeah.
But at 118,000 battles, and those have been out for like a few months. So
yeah, instead of like
I mean, like the German boats are the top of the list. Blau and Salmon are there, Cachalot's there, and then it was these, right? So as far as the tech line goes, these were very much unplayed or unpopular. Yeah. I don't know that this makes them better, but it probably doesn't hurt. I feel like Thrasher chucks out a ton of torpedoes. And I think that's what players who played Thrasher were keen on with Thrasher. And so those guys, that dude in that 6,600 with the 170,000 battles or whatever, the guy who has the most Thrasher battles is going to be like feasting on this. He'll be like, excellent. Damage numbers are going to be so good now.
he walks into his office with a plate full of bologna sandwiches because he's going to be in there for a while.
I like the
8
idea
sandwiches high.
Just a sub-main with a plate. It's just white bread, bologna, and nothing else.
It's dry. He's just chomping.
Is it one really crazy multi-bread, multi-bologna slice giant cartoon sandwich?
No.
Or are we talking just
I think it's a stack of individual sandwiches.
It's bread, bologna, bread, bologna, bread, bologna. Okay.
He comes in and he goes, "Mother, don't bother me. I'll be playing Thrasher all night." Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you've picked the guy.
That's all good. I'm going to say something similar when we get down to Grozavoy for me. So this is also self-deprecating. Halford is getting some buffs. Halford is getting, I think, some buffs that it needs. When I did a review on Halford when it came out, we did a hot take review on it, and I didn't have a ton of I didn't like it very much when I looked at the other Fletchers, right? I thought, man, this boat's worse than all the other Fletchers. That's lame. And I played it since, especially because our neighborhood Halford main Betaflex would show up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to spend pizza points or channel points and make you play Halford." And so I would. And I've had some really fun games in Halford. I find that its playstyle is actually more interesting than I ever thought it would have been. But I always felt like it was a little bit weak on its ability to do damages in the main battery and just to be a destroyer like a regular boat. It was always a little goofy, and I felt like I needed to work those planes really hard to be successful in it. I think you had a slightly different experience, but we'll hit these buffs here, and then I'll throw it over to you for kind of some thoughts. She's got a range increase on the main battery. It's going from 10.2 up to 12.1. It's a pretty significant range increase, about 20%, not quite, but almost. And then a reload drop from 3.3 down to 2.8 seconds, which I think is pretty significant. This boat does have fewer guns than other Fletchers, and so this is actually a pretty nice thing to do to it. And then the shell ballistics are going to get a little bit flatter. So I think this is a really welcome if you're a Halford fan, or even if you're just a Fletcher fan and you like the idea that this is a historical ship, actually, in all respects. What do you think about these changes? Do you think this is good, bad?
You left off the other bullet.
Oh, I did. You're right.
Number of aircraft per squadron increased from 4 to 5.
And that's actually a really cool buff, by the way. That's a 20% damage increase is what we're talking about here.
On those Bearcats that it launches, right? So
Thank you.
I'm not gonna make any kind of argument that I'm like, no, Halford's the best. In our recent conversation we had about Johnston and GQ Johnny, we talked about a lot of all the other Fletchers, and I remember when we were doing that going, oh well, look, Halford has like way worse gun DPM than pretty much all the other Fletchers. I think even Velos's is better, and Velos's is already kind of mediocre compared to the other Fletchers. So giving it more base range and giving it more reloads good, because it only has 4 turrets, unlike a lot of the other Fletchers that have 5, because of that pesky airplane launcher.
Yeah, they put that in there.
Yeah, so I mean, if you enjoy playing Halford, this is all gravy. These are all increases to making it more useful. I'll be curious to see what the shell ballistic change feels like. I can't imagine it's going to make it become the first Fletcher that has like Grozavoy guns, but it's probably going to be nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
a couple of numbers real quick. So I have my Velos, I have my Fletcher built up here. So this thing is getting buffed to a 2.8 second reload. My Fletcher has a 2.8 second reload built. And so this one is going to actually exceed Fletcher's reload, because you'll be able to... Actually, hang on. You won't be able to take the gun bat modification because it's a 9. Wait, hang on. Can you?
You can.
No, you can. Yeah, so you'll get better DPM than Fletcher should you choose to take the reload speed increase there, which is great if you're a Halford, because Halford has 1 fewer guns. Velos has a 2.4 second reload in my build, probably because it has that mod, right? So that's probably what you're going to see on Halford as well. So it's going to bring the DPM up to match Velos, which is decent, right? Velos is another 4-gun destroyer, but because it has, it's got better reload than Fletcher, that's how it kind of tries to stay in competition, and that they're going to basically give that same amount of power to Halford, more or less. So this is a nice buff for Halford. I think this will make Halford a little bit more fun to play. And still have that airplane party trick.
Yeah, if you're playing a Halford purely to play in a gunboat, then get a Fletcher. But like,
yeah, for sure.
It's fine. Like, I don't see a lot of people play this boat, at least on NA.
I imagine that's common on the other servers too.
I don't imagine that's going to change with these buffs, but
no. But if you have it and you're a fanboy, it's a good thing for you. Jay Humphreys is getting a reload decrease. That's a buff. And so Humphreys had, where's Humphreys? Let me pull that up here real quick. Humphreys had, I think, the same DPM as Gearing, but they did it differently. And they did that by giving it the same number of guns and the same base reload. And so now it's going to actually be a faster reload than Gearing. Humphreys is one of those super ships that feels like a tier 10.5 instead of a tier 11 or whatever. And so this is actually going to help Humphreys have a little bit more kick that it didn't have before. Concealment on Humphreys still does not hold a candle to Gearing, so you are going to be more spotted. And so, in my opinion, you might as well get a little more DPM out of it for it. Because Humphreys is really just basically kind of more Gearing at tier 11. So, meh. I don't have a lot to say here, but... what does it have?
Or does it not?
No sap. It does have the burst fire modified shells thing.
That's burst fire, but it's got like those more modern turrets that are like off of Austin or something.
Yeah, they look like Austin turrets, but there's no
I haven't played it in a
loaded
long time.
Yeah. So
my Humphreys is most famous for being the ship that my Popeye captain is on. And I use the Popeye captain more on Rhode Island than I do on Humphreys. So, but yeah, I guess that's good. If you're a Humphreys Chad, look out. You're going to do more damage, probably.
It's just going to make that boat more relevant. It's going to make it make more sense in its perch up there at the top of the line. So
it's not going to dethrone. It's not going to dethrone Yamagiri. So whatever.
No, it probably won't. 3 to 2.7. That's a 10% DPM buff, right? Is what they're giving you. So it's not bad. We'll see how it kind of pans out. L20 is getting to go 1 knot faster. I'm not even going to slow down to talk about that. We're getting a main battery. I mean, one knot in a submarine. I don't know that that's super interesting. You guys get it. The math is pretty simple. Grozovoy's, this isn't that big a deal either. Kind of similar to the Humphreys change. Grozovoy's getting a 0.5 second reload buff. This is great, especially if you've got the legendary mod, which improves that even more. It's going to make Grozovoy a bit of a machine gun. I still think Grozovoy is probably the most playable of the Soviet tier 10 destroyers. And so this is doing, in my mind, is doing nothing but helping. That said, even though I said it's the most playable, I don't think it's necessarily the most exploitable. I think if you're a really good player, you can probably grind more damage out of a Kaba just because she's got more DPM. But this boat's nice and playable, and giving it a little more reload is going to help with that. Grozovoy does lag a bit in performance against her peers at tier 10. So I don't think this is a unneeded buff, but I'm glad to see it come, I think, for this little boat, because I'm a fan. If you've got anything to share on Grozovoy, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll roll on. Like I said, I don't think it's a complicated one.
Nobody plays Grozovoy.
Yeah.
Like statistically in the last year, it's pretty far down on the list of tier 10 battle destroyers, but
yeah,
I've always liked Grozovoy for what it is. I think it's I always thought it was a nice end to that line because it finally gets you better concealment and does the other stuff the other ones do.
Yeah.
And it has like every tool. Like it has like all the buttons.
It was kind of one of the first boats to have like 5 consumables. Like it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it stinks of the old developers bias stuff. But yeah, nobody plays it, and okay, this is fine. I don't know that this is gonna like increase the number of Grozovoys you see, but if you like taking Grozovoy out, you're not gonna complain about a reload buff.
Right. And 0.5 seconds is about a 12% DPM buff, right? That's like, it's not a small increase, right? That's pretty rad. So good on people who have Grozovoy and are interested in giving it a try. The torpedo reload is tragic, says GMAC, and it gets worse with the leg mod. Like it's like really long if you put the leg mod on there. Torpedoes got a buff a little while ago from 10 to 12 kilometers. So they've been watching Grozovoy and making changes as they need to. And this is, I just think, another one in that series of small buffs they've been giving this little boat. Chungking is a tier 5 Pan-Asian light cruiser. It's getting a little bit of a reload time buff and torpedo reload time buff as well. Interesting they'd pick this one out and not touch any of the others, but they're going to. I think, again, not real complicated there. That makes sense, I think, to most of us. Wujing, of course, is your Pan-Asian Alsace, so it's getting the same buff that we saw for Alsace earlier. So if you happen to have a Wujing, just like the Alsace, you're going to get that same buff. Good for Wujing. Uganda is getting some small buff here as well. This is the Commonwealth Tier 7 cruiser. I think this is a Fiji-like. It's getting a reload buff from 6 down to 5.6 seconds and a range buff, 0.3 kilometer buff. And then the researchable range is going to keep that same 0.3 kilometer buff on Uganda. And then Skada, I guess, hang on. Do you have any comments on either of those boats? I hit Chungking, Wujing, and Uganda.
That Chungking one stinks of. Turns out there was a guy in that Agano and Hawkins, and they're just like these just Garbo tier 5 cruisers need some buffs. Because again, Chungking isn't. I think Chungking is like another one that's like a 6-gun boat. Like, okay.
You know, and a little bit ago they did a bunch of changes to make the progression steady from tiers 2 up through tier 7. I think this is kind of echoes of that. I think they're coming back and maybe finishing some of that job, maybe, which is
Wujing. The only thing I'll say about the Wujing one and why that's interesting to me is because when Wujing was released a long time ago now, it was in that era where it might have been like the first I can remember where they put out a premium that was a carbon copy of this is the Pan Asian Alsace, where they said when they put it out, any changes to Alsace will carry to Wujing, because as far as the data in this game is concerned, like, they're identical, right? And so them listing that here is because of that from years ago. I remember that was like a big point where they said if we ever tweak Alsace, this premium's going to get messed with. And that was kind of right around the time because there was an era, folks, where they didn't mess with premiums. And then they made a change and they said, nope, we're going to mess with premiums. Any premium that came out kind of like after, what was it? It was that premium Hyuga. Like any premium from that point on could be messed with. And so, and so that's what I think of when I see this, is like, well, that's just happening in the background, because if they tweak Alsace, this is just happening. Uganda, that's fine. Like, you know, Uganda is one of those, they put a bunch of those tier 7s in new tech lines. There's one in the Pan American line too that's a Fiji, but they're all like, they don't have 4 turrets like Fiji. They all have 3 like Mysore. And so this is a nice DPM buff to a 9-gun cruiser. This is going to let you light more fires and do that, you know, crawly smoke, light and fires gimmick with this one, and probably brings it more in line with how the rest of the line plays earlier. So
agreed. And then you're on a roll. You want to hit Schultz as well? I haven't covered that one.
So tier 9 Felix Schultz, maximum speed increase, so it's getting a knot more of speed. Turning circle radius lowered by 10 meters.
A dramatic 10 meters. I'll have
these kind of changes, like they've done it now. They've cracked the code on the Felix Schultz. Everyone
talk about power creep. Like,
it actually makes me wonder, like, and I'm not gonna do it because this is a thing you would look at, but like, what is the comparison now between the maximum speed and turning circle between Felix Schultz and Georg Hoffman? Since Georg Hoffman is a tier 10, Schultz with differences, but it's a tier 10 Schultz. Like, is this like, well, the Georg Hoffman went 37.5 and had an 800-meter turning circle, so we're just making them the same?
I mean, we can at least look at the speed. Although I've got signals and things on here, which might make it goofy.
Anyway, that's what I wonder when I see something like this, because I can't imagine.
It is 37.5 knots.
Bing, bing, bing. I'm the big winner of guessing why they
Good
made
job,
changes. Like, I just, you look at something like this and it's like, seriously? Like,
how did they come to this?
Like, Yuri was sitting around in Serbia on a Sunday and was like, we must tweak the Schultz. I've found the data in the spreadsheet. If we don't increase its speed by a knot and shrink its turning circle by 10 meters,
all hell will break loose.
Yes, now Schultz will be the most overpowered tier 9 tech line destroyer in the game.
I'm pretty sure Yuri did that on a Tuesday. Come on, they got weekends off, I assume. Sure. I hope. I don't know.
You've been there. I haven't. I don't know what the working conditions are like in Belgrade.
I mean, it was nice when we were around. There was free food and stuff. But I don't know if that was every day. It might have just been they wanted to make a good impression. I think that's kind of the list, man. I mean, hey, thanks for coming and talking buffs and nerfs with me. This is always, like I said at the top, this is always fun to do. I find it entertaining, and it's fun to chat about these things with you and kind of take our time with it. So I appreciate you spending some time with us today. Hopefully we didn't keep you up too late.
No, I'm fine.
Alrighty. Well, with that, guys, we'll sign off and close this up. Thanks so much for watching Clyde Plays News. Why would you read the internet when I would read it to you? And this time, Scott even joined us to talk about these buffs and nerfs. If you're watching this later on YouTube, why don't you come over and hang out with us for the live show? It's a lot of fun over on Twitch. Maybe you don't like Twitch. That's fine. We'll keep bringing those videos over to this channel. And we thank you so much for being a part of the show. Take care and goodbye.
This has been the news on Clyde Plays Live.
Well, all right.
I like my useless junks comment. I felt Piemonte and the DD super ships all really need buffs. They're just blah ships.
Yeah.
They are, in essence, useless junk currently. So I
Who's useless
I concur
junk
with you.
currently?
Who's useless junk now? I concur.